Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare 知道了 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram Hare 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 Hari Bol.
Amazing Gita. Very nice from our Pandit and team here. Now, Mataji will speak. Very nice. I'm sorry, I just have a very simple explanation. Anyone would like some water?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Gautam-Anandi, Hare Krishna. We'd like to welcome all of you, and especially we'd like to welcome His Holiness Prabhupada Swami Maharaj for coming here today and enlightening us on Gita values. Very fortunate to have him today. Thank you.
Looks like a weapon. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. And the battlefield of Kurukshetra. What are they doing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra for, anyways? What's the program? You're not sure? You must know.
He said, sorry, I didn't understand. He said, sorry, I didn't understand.
Oh, okay. Why are they on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? What's the purpose?
Because they didn't get the kingdom and the Kauravas. They occupied the Pandavas' kingdom.
Yeah. Yesterday evening, we talked about ahimsa, nonviolence. This looks like violence. How do you put together violence and nonviolence and get Bhagavad Gita? I'm asking, do you have an idea? Not sure, huh? A lot of people aren't sure. You're not the only one. So far, we've discussed 2 of the 6 Bhagavad Gita values. Yesterday, I explained something that I had been misrepresenting for some period of time before yesterday. There's a Gita Values project. There's this putting together of these 6 Gita values. I was originally told something different than the way it really happened, and I've been repeating it the way that I was told. But yesterday evening, I happened to read a document that was of how it really happened. In short, without details, there was an exercise of several people considering how to give spiritual leadership to a worldwide organization, ISKCON. And discussion after a day and a half was summarized by stating there are certain principles that one should consider when giving leadership to a worldwide organization that has lots of diversity and so many things. And then Brajavihari's son stood up and said, these principles that were just stated, this is Gita values. So then it got the brand, Gita values. And some back and forth further, it was distilled down to 6 principles or values that should guide an individual, whether you're leading a worldwide organization or you're leading your own life and living in your family and living in the community and how to live your life, guided by certain values. That's the project. We'll get back to the question I asked. What's your name? Sri Harsha. Sri Harsha. We'll get back to the question I asked you. And then at the end, I'm going to ask you to repeat back the answer or your understanding of the answer. How can you have nonviolence in the midst of violence? That's the question. Contradiction. Sounds like. We'll go through the little sequence as we've done for the other ones. Spiritual culture and its values. Spiritual culture can mean all kinds of things to different people. And even for one person, it can mean multiple things. But it's just relying upon something that I just have been immersed in, is the light of the Bhagavad. Prabhupada was using this term spiritual culture profusely, repeatedly, in light of the Bhagavad. So one can say it means Bhagavad Dharma. Spiritual culture is Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Dharma is advancement of spiritual culture. And spiritual knowledge, self-realization, so many other terms can be kind of interchangeably used with spiritual culture. And culture doesn't just mean something external. Culture means internal and external and eternal. How's that? The unchanging realities. Remember this? Some of you didn't see this, so I'll go through it again. You recognize the iceberg. And so there's the tip of an organization, a country, a company, an individual, whatever size and shape the entity is, there's culture of that entity. And as an iceberg has different parts, so culture has different parts. And there's the tip of the iceberg, and then there's the big part of the iceberg that's below the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg, so to speak, is the visible part. So the culture of life, there's some visible things. The way people dress, the way people speak, the way people conduct themselves, the measurable, observable things that make up culture. In the language of organization development, they call it artifacts. Given it any other name is fine. Something that comes in touch with the senses, something that's perceivable, observable, audible, measurable. That's the tip of the iceberg. And below the tip of the iceberg is much more than the tip. And for an organization, let's say, it's the mission statement or what somebody says, this is important. What you may say about your life, about life, this is important. That's a value that you hold. And you try to live, you try to do the measurable things, observable things, resting upon your values. And there's a dynamic of interplay between behaviors and values. One may influence the other and vice versa. Generally speaking, values drive behaviors. But you may want to modify behaviors in order to help adjust and align your values to what you think should be, though it may not be at the present time. Supposing somebody's a thief. Anyway, but you may want to change a behavior in order to change that which is below the behavior. And then at the very bottom is assumptions, the unchanging, unchallenged, unchallengeable realities, certainties. In other words, values and behaviors can change, and there's some things that don't change. And the idea with spiritual culture is to, with culture, spiritual culture in particular, is to make an alignment between the unchanging, the stated values, and the behaviors. And you may need to go to a chiropractor for every now and then, get some adjustment if things are out of alignment. That's called going to your teachers and finding out, what are my blind spots and what are the things I'm doing wrong and how can I correct that? So that's Gita values is in the center part of the iceberg, but we will also be speaking about the unchanging part, because that's how the Gita values starts. So a couple more slides, just the introduction. There's knowledge and wisdom. I'm doing this much quicker than the other times. That's it's jnana, and then there's vijnana. One of the ways that Prabhupada uses those two terms, theory and practical application of theory. You're living by what you believe in or what you understand is correct, and you get some realization, or you get knowledge, realized knowledge, as opposed to information type. And then keep doing it, and some wisdom will be yours. So Bhagavad Gita is on that upper part. There's information, but it's beyond just the information part. And when you get beyond the information part, then you have spiritual culture. You have somebody or a group of people, or you have something that lives by its values. And then they can teach by their words and by their life. That's the intention of Gita values. Then the final little image, almost the final little image, is this one, liminal space. One of the first times I made this presentation was in China. And the person who was wanting me to make this presentation said, can you put something in like this? Because many people may be intimidated if they hear something and they're really far away from that something. There's a big gap between where I am today and what you're talking about, these nice values. So it's fine, because for all of us, there's goals that we have or something that we hold to be worthy of us, and we strive for it. And there's a gap between where we are and where we want to be, which is life. And then growth is you go through that open space, and going through that open space can be uncomfortable. Uncomfortable in part because we want to hold on to the familiar. There's a tendency to be conditioned by conditioning. We don't want to let go. Although we see something over there that's attractive and makes sense to us, and our intelligence says yes, and we don't, it's uncomfortable transitioning to where you want to go. That's when you're feeling uncomfortable going from where you are to where you want to be, that's a good sign. Feeling uncomfortable because you're going to where you want to go and you're not there yet. It's like Arjuna says, what about somebody who doesn't make it? Then they're nowhere. They're neither here nor there, like a riven cloud. But the good news is Krishna's there, and he'll help you get to where you want to go. And even if you don't complete where you want to go, you pick up from where you left off. So, liminal space, crossing, transitioning to these higher values. That's anyone that's been around for a while, some of you have been around for a while, you have this experience that as you continue to read Bhagavad Gita, you start to understand its message better. You also start to become a little more humble than you were last time you read it, because you realize you're far from that objective. You realize more the anarthas that are the obstacles. And then you have to make some decisions about, are you going to really work to overcome those obstacles, and call out to Krishna to help you cross that space. Quite a gap. We were discussing it a little bit yesterday. Prabhupada would often make it sound like piece of cake. Chant Hare Krishna, go back to Godhead. Haribol. Guaranteed. Put your quarters in, pull this lever, and down comes back to Godhead. Like a vending machine. Not quite like that. There's a big gap in between. But yoga means connecting with Krishna, and Krishna will help you get clear what the goal is, and you strive by right means, you're assured of success. May not be in the next 5 days, but you're sure to success. Here's another image that I found when I was looking for liminal space one. Here's making that journey. And you really know sometimes how it's going to unfold. But you have some confidence that you're going in the right direction, so you keep going. Guided by Bhagavad Gita and good teachers and a sincere desire to reach the goal. Okay, so we've discussed Gita value number 1. Which was Gita value number 1? Somebody put up your hand. Don't just blurt it out and then I can't hear anybody saying anything. Samadarshana. What does Samadarshana mean? Could you explain to them? Samadarshana means?
Having equal vision.
Does a little portable microphone work? That'd be nice if we can have our online people hear you too.
Having equal vision.
Equal vision.
So not looking at, from the Bhagavad Gita verse, the conclusion was that not looking at the external body and this individual spirit soul, which is common to all the living entities.
So, while recognizing there's differences and relating in suitable ways according to differences, at the same time hold on to and observe the reality of the living entity that's within, that's part of Krishna. So you can be diverse in your character, conduct, not character, your conduct and your speech and how you interact with the differences out there, while at the same time holding a spiritual conception of yourself and what's behind the diversity that's out there. Because I've been spending some time with some immersion in the winter retreat event. By the way, you got to let Sundari Radha know what the topic is you're going to speak about, because it's still a blank space after your name. One of my topics is going to be Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's examining Sanatana Goswami. When Sanatana Goswami comes to visit Jagannath Puri. And one of the scenes when he comes to Jagannath Puri is he wants 2 things. He wants Sanatana Goswami to get the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already given more than his blessings. He's empowered him. But in addition to the empowerment of the Supreme Person upon Sanatana Goswami, he, Mahaprabhu, wants Sanatana Goswami to receive the explicit blessings of the Vaishnavas. And so what he does is, when they all come to Puri for Rath Yatra, because when Sanatana Goswami came to Puri, it was way before Rath Yatra. They hadn't come yet. And when they came, every single one of the devotees, he had Sanatana Goswami offer obeisances to them according to their position. So get their blessings and also train him in how to offer respect according to one's position. Meaning, so there's a Dvaita, there's more advanced, there's peers, there's less advanced. And so offer respect to all, including those less advanced, and how to do so, and at the same time receiving their blessings. That's spiritual culture. It's observing etiquette. Prabhupada calls it, or it's translated by Krishnadas Kaviraj, his writings, it's standard etiquette. This is one of the dimensions of social culture, and it's one of the dimensions of Samadarshana. While seeing the spirit soul, we also understand, we don't whitewash or be, insensitive to the differences, so while respecting differences and behaving according to differences, according to culture and standard etiquette, there's the spirit soul that's within. And the Sammadarshana means both, but it's the emphasis on seeing the spiritual identity within. Bhagavad Gita begins with, you're not the body, your spirit soul. And then the rest is on top of, you're not the body, your spirit soul. So when you're not the body, there's differences of embodiment, and you respect, you recognize there's etiquettes involved and differences. And it's nice to know what those are, because that's part of culture. At the same time, spirit soul part of Krishna. So it's Sammadarshana. And then Gita value number 2, we discussed yesterday evening. What was Gita value number 2? Premananda.
Not putting others in distress because of
What's the Sanskrit word?
himself.
Ahimsa. Were you with us yesterday evening? Yes? Sri Vallabha's home. Were you there yesterday? No. So you're listening carefully, right? So you're making up for missing last night. Okay. You've heard the word ahimsa before? Ahimsa? You've heard it. So Premananda is going to explain to us what ahimsa means.
Not putting others in distress because of lack of spiritual culture.
Uh-huh. So that don't take it away. You're not done yet. That's the standard. It's a nice definition, not putting others into distress. And then we heard there's different kinds. Physical, mental, emotional distress. Not putting others into distress is nonviolence. Now, gosh, just exist and others are going to be in distress. So what are you supposed to do? Go out of existence? That doesn't work. But you aim at that, recognizing you'll be misunderstood even when you're aiming at that. Everyone will raise their hand. How many would say, yes, I've had the experience of going out of my way to do something that was an act of kindness for another person, and they read it just the opposite? We've all had that experience. But the act was ahimsa. The intention was ahimsa. And somehow they got some distress out of it. Somehow. So we discussed that a little bit. The pyramid of needs, Maslow's pyramid of needs, and anyway. Even when you're going out of your way to be ahimsa by your disposition, it'll be misunderstood by some. Guaranteed. So then there's a positive, beyond that negative, there's a positive definition. What was that positive definition? You remember? You don't remember? Who remembers? Here we go.
Furthering one's spiritual happiness.
Yeah. Contemplating in all circumstances of life, whatever the spectrum of things are, how you can assist another person to connect with who they really are, connect with spiritual culture, connect with their real happiness. And you may not be able to have an answer what to do, but if you're always contemplating in that way, that's the way of life of ahimsa. Awakening the Krishna consciousness of another entity just by your existence in relating to others. And we have different capacities to do, but meditating, contemplating like that, that's ahimsa, which is resting upon the spiritual conception. It's all resting upon, the iceberg is resting upon the bottom of the iceberg. So the unchanging reality is we're spirit soul. The value, listen, the value, your name again? Sri Harsha, that's right, Sri Harsha. So recognizing the existence of a living being as a spirit soul, you try to see equally while recognizing and behaving according to differences. It's resting upon the identity of spirit soul. And when recognizing the identity of spirit soul, you want to assist them in awakening the remembrance of who they really are. We're going to touch on that this session also. So that's ahimsa. So now, who wants to guess what Gita value number 3 is? What float? Because they connect logically and sequentially, not exactly chronologically. Humility. She knows this history. You looked at the Gita values sheet. Humility. Amanitvam. Anybody recognize where this amanitva is found in Bhagavad Gita or Shikshastaka? Chapter 13. Chapter 13. In response to one of Arjun's questions, he had 6 questions. What's knowledge? Amanitvam adambitvam. Humility and pridelessness. Sounds like a quality, doesn't it? And you look at that list of knowledge and its qualities and qualities and qualities and qualities and qualities. So the symptom of knowledge is quality or character. Say it the other way. You may have information, but if you don't have character, you don't have knowledge. You may have information. You can get A's in your exams and be a goofball socially. Just be, not a person of knowledge. But so it starts with humility. It starts with humility, its first value. Here's a Bhagavad Gita quiz question. Bhagavad Gita quiz question. Out of all those, there's 19 in that list. Out of all those 19, one is the source and the others are products of the source. What's the one that's the source of all other features of knowledge? Remember, knowledge is not just information. Knowledge is a quality. Mai chananya yogena bhaktir abhyavicharini. You familiar? Mai chananya, mai cha ananya, mai chananya yogena, ananya bhakti yoga, undivided devotional service to Krishna. Gives rise to all the, that's this wellspring from which all other features of good quality or knowledge arise. And that is resting upon one other quality. It's right in the first paragraph of those verses, 8 through 11, 8 through 12, chapter 13. Acharya Upasana. Because without the connection with the spiritual master, undivided devotion to Krishna doesn't happen. Something else will happen, but not that one. And then, voila. Back to Godhead, right? Put your coins in, pull the lever, and down comes back to Godhead. Not quite mechanical like that, but it's sequential. So of those items of knowledge, the very first in the list is amanitvam, amanitva, or amanitvam, adambitvam. It's the same sense of, in Shikshastaka 3, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also speaks, doesn't it? About humility. What does he say about humility? Tanadapi sunichena ivasahishnana amanina manadena. Amanina manadena. So same Sanskrit root, I think. Humility. So let's go down the path. What's humility? Here's a dictionary definition. Humility means a state of being humble. Oh, great. Thanks a lot. The word humility has its origin in the Latin word humilis, meaning low. Look at this, lower than the blade of grass. Humility means meaning low. Here's Confucius, nice Chinese fellow. Humility is the solid foundation of all virtues. Now, there's lots of nice sayings about humility. Here's another one, a Chinese proverb. Be like the bamboo, the higher you grow, the deeper you bow. Now, when I taught this, just anecdotal, when I taught this in China, it was in a big building. We had a nice room in a big building. When I came out of the big building, I noticed right across the street, kind of kitty corner, was a rooftop of a house that had bamboo growing on the rooftop. And I was like, what? Then I was told there's a certain kind of bamboo that doesn't grow as tall as the other bamboos. And that therefore it doesn't grow as tall because it doesn't require the same root structure. Big bamboo requires a really big root structure because it's got to bear the weight of big bamboo. And it takes a long time. I just get a bamboo lesson. It takes a long time. Ferns and grass and other things, they grow very quickly, abundantly. But the big bamboo takes years. But once it grows, it goes very tall, quick. Because it has the proper root structure. So when the bamboo doesn't have there's a certain breed of bamboo, it just doesn't grow as tall. So people sometimes do that because it's kind of like a lotus is symbolic of something for some people, and China has its symbolism of what a lotus means to people in China. So the bamboo has a similar meaning. It's an expression of humility, a display of humility. Here's some others. This is from the Song dynasty. Have character before emerging from the soil. Remain unassuming even after having reached the clouds. Nice. Humility is an expression of, it's a poem glorifying bamboo. Here's another one. Modesty is the foundation of all virtues. Pride is the chief of all evils. From a different dynasty, but same wisdom. So here's some things what humility isn't. It's not the absence of self-esteem. You feel bad about yourself. It's not about just tolerating other people. I didn't make this graphic, somebody else did. That sometimes you just tolerate, but it's with a kind of condescension. That's not what humility is. So there are displays of humility that are seething underneath and, being humble on the outside. That's not what humility is. Everybody has their buttons. At a certain point, press the button hard enough and humility changes into rage. Is humility just being a blind follower? Well, obviously no. Faith is required and following is required, but it's not blind. So what do we follow, or what do we have faith in? So that then it requires the earlier ones, or the one requires something of quality. Here is a nice question that came out in Portland a couple of times, because there were different audiences. Which comes first? Sri Harsha? Which comes first? Humility or devotion to Krishna? What's the reasoning behind that? Sounds good?
Because we serve Krishna.
Because we serve Krishna. That was a short answer. The question was, which comes first? And you said devotional service to Krishna comes first. So my question is, why do you say it like that? You're honest. That means you're humble. Because to say I don't know in front of an audience like this when I'm singling you out like this, you have a very nice quality of humility and honesty. So we said at the beginning, from chapter 13, verses 8 through 12, where there's items of knowledge, those items of knowledge are all actually qualities, and they're all resting on one, which is Sri Harsha, devotional service. Undivided devotional service, not sometimes devotional service. Yeah? But here's another answer. You can flip it around and say the other. Without humility, you're not going to do devotional service. You may make it look like devotional service and, put on tilak and neck beads and say, I'm doing devotional service. And inside, you're thinking something else. Then it's not really devotional service. So one can make an argument for the case that humility is, or that it actually wasn't humility. It was faith. That was the question. Was faith comes first? Faith or devotional service? But to have faith, faith in what? I have faith in me. I'm humble. So faith is a starting point, but faith in what? Humility means looking up to something. To what? So here's a statement from this group of devotees that worked on this Gita values text. Humility in Gita, in the Gita, is a virtue which is seen in behavior, that's the tip of the iceberg, but which rests on the understanding and character, that's the values beneath the tip of the iceberg. So there's an interplay between them. Behavior, and so humility and faith. Humility rests on understanding oneself, same as at the bottom of the iceberg. I'm playing with this iceberg model because they do fit together, and we do want to have alignment. So it's really important to have a clear, and gradually more and more clear understanding of who we really are. So we're going to spend some time with this question. First and foremost, who am I? It's a good question. So let's do this one. We're part of a big universe, and we're on one of those planets over there called the Earth planet. I'm looking at, I don't know why I'm fixed on Sri Harsha, but I hope you don't mind I'm singling you out. But so there's the Earth planet, along with the other planets. And there's a map of the Earth. Look at that. And in that Earth planet over there on the left side, there's North American continent. And in the North American continent, there's the United States. And in those United States, one of those states is Illinois. One of those cities in Illinois is Chicago. And over there to the west, kind of southwest, is Naperville. And here's an old map of Naperville. Now it looks a little different. The sequence was based on something that I heard in the very early stages of my Krishna consciousness. Brahmananda, a morning walk in New York City, Brahmananda, Hayagriva, Kirtanananda, and Prabhupada, the four of them, morning walk. Brahmananda asking Prabhupada, I'm getting so much service and so much respect and so much this. How do we remain humble? The story I heard, Satsrup Maharaj was with the group. Prabhupada put his cane down and said, in the spiritual sky, there's innumerable spiritual planets. And amongst those innumerable spiritual planets, one of those spiritual planets, the largest of all, is Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna resides. In that vastness of the spiritual sky, there's innumerable spiritual planets. There's a cloud called Mahatattva. In that cloud called Mahatattva, there's an expansion of Krishna in the spiritual world called Mahavishnu. And from Mahavishnu comes innumerable universes. And in one of those universes, there's innumerable planets. In amongst those innumerable planets, one of them is the Earth planet. And the Earth planet, there's 7 continents with billions of people. And in that Earth planet with 7 continents, one of them is North America. And of North America, one of the countries is the United States. And one of those states is New York State. In New York State, there's many, many cities with many, many people. One of those cities is New York City. New York City has millions of people. And in New York City, there's so many streets, and one of them is Mott Street. And you're standing here and asking me how to be humble. That's why the series of... I was told much later that Karandar, who was the president in the Los Angeles temple, asked Prabhupada the same thing and got the same answer. Only it was, the context was Los Angeles instead of New York. So we're insignificant. That's part of being humble. And then comes, okay, I'm insignificant. Who am I? So we have the answer. And no one here, at least, will disagree. We're really spirit soul. We could say it further. Not only we're spirit soul, we're part and parcel of the Supreme. Mamevangsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Okay, I'm part of that supreme eternal para Brahman. I'm a tiny little Brahman spark of para Brahman. That's who I am. And because that's who I am, I'm meant for service to Krishna. Okay, that's the information part. Then comes the acting according to that information. We're being asked to move forward because we have some guests. So if you're in the back, make yourself uncomfortable. Come forward so that people in the back can be comfortable. As they say in Texas, come on in. Come on in. You got to see the screen up here. You don't have to see the screen, but if you want to see the screen, you got to come in. Sometime if you get a chance, visit Texas A&M at College Station, Texas. And I'm saying this just to fill the space, but when the elevator door opens, there's this loud recorded voice that says, "Howdy," with a real nice Texas accent. Howdy. So, howdy. Hare Krishna. Who am I? Then comes this Gita values concept called acceptance. And humility is acceptance of ourselves. Now, there's the spiritual, and then there's the covering of the spiritual. And there's acceptance is both. It starts with acceptance of higher teachings. Now, this I learned from a devotee, I forget his name. I got this from Prema Tarangani. There's a devotee that teaches Bhakti Shastri from India, Adipurusha. This he was saying, this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, is right here on this one slide. It's acceptance. So this is Gita value number 3. When we don't accept an undesired event, it becomes anger. When we accept it, it becomes tolerance. When we don't accept uncertainty, it becomes fear. When we accept it, it becomes adventure. When we don't accept others' bad behavior towards us, it becomes hatred. When we accept it, it becomes forgiveness. There's one more. When we don't accept others' success, it becomes jealousy. When we accept it, it becomes inspiration. And then, don't take the picture yet. There's one more. Acceptance is, go ahead, now you can take the picture. Acceptance is the key to handling life well. Sri Harsha. Acceptance is the key to handling life well. That I'm picking on you. I'm not picking on you because I'm calling your name many times. You'll remember this exchange. You may not remember all the things that we talked about, but you remember I was showing some affection to you and you were smiling. What's with this sannyasi anyways? Acceptance is the key to handling life well. And acceptance in many, the spiritual and the covering of the spiritual. And that's what our position is. And we want to go to acceptance of Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, acceptance is demonstrated by service in the mood of surrender. So that's, surrender requires humility. It also requires, some connection with somebody that's going to teach us what surrender and humility unto Krishna is, or devotional service. But that's acceptance is demonstrated in that way. Acceptance of Bhagavad Gita's message and who we really are. It's nice. It's very simple. Humility is being in our natural state, acting from the spiritual platform, realizing that we are insignificant spirit souls who can make a difference when we embrace the mood of service. Make a difference when we embrace the mood of service means being an instrument of the Supreme. And then we can make a difference. Say it negatively. Don't see your connection in relation to the Supreme and try to make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't change things outside of you. To change things outside of you, there's a controller. It just goes back to the discussion yesterday about our needs. And if we see my happiness means people outside of me are going to make me happy, and the circumstance, the situation I'm in is going to make me happy, it's a rough ride, Prabhus. Because sometimes, and that's not what real happiness is, even when the configuration seems to line up. Because then it changes. And then it's not happiness anymore, because it wasn't really happiness to begin with. To connect with reality and to make a difference is to connect with the Supreme. To connect with reality is to connect with the Supreme. To make a difference is to be an instrument of the Supreme. And it's certainly possible. It's an opportunity that's been extended to all of us through the message of Bhagavad Gita and through disciplic succession, etc. So it's a choice. It's an opportunity. And Here we go. More about humility. Humility means, this is Prabhupada's words from Bhagavad Gita about humility, chapter 13. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Amanina, amanadena. Amanina, manadena. Amanadena. You're not expecting honor or recognition. It's become a sannyasi for a while, and you'll find people will come to you with all kinds of emotional stuff that they're struggling with, and one of them is, I don't feel accepted by others. I feel that there's a need to be, appreciated, and I'm not being appreciated. Boo-hoo. What to do? So humility is, you're not anxious to have that. It's not what real satisfaction is. It's an obstacle for making your Krishna connection unobstructed. It's an obstruction to your Krishna connection. Expecting the satisfaction of recognition from others or being honored by others. Here's Mother Teresa, same idea. If you are humble, nothing will touch you, neither praise nor disgrace, because you know what you are. Or in Bhagavad Gita, humility aided Arjuna to understand himself and what he must do in the greater scheme of things. And the greater scheme of things was Krishna wanted some service. Krishna decided, he informed Arjuna, now we're back to our question, Sri Harsha. Remember violence where there's non-violence? How are you going to have ahimsa or non-violence in the middle of a battlefield? And you do what Arjuna did, because non-violence means you do what Krishna wants. That's the absolute unchanging reality. Absolute unchanging reality. There he is. Krishna's drawing the chariot of Arjuna. Humility is not weakness. It nurtured Arjuna's self-esteem, self-confidence, and courage. It is the jewel of the broad-minded and is the key to a spiritual life. Now, let's go to the idea that there's some people that don't have a clear conception of spirit soul. Confucius, for example, never spoke about spirit soul. He spoke about values minus the spiritual conception of the soul being part of the Supreme. He doesn't address it. He doesn't say that it doesn't exist. He doesn't say that it does exist. He's just speaking about a value and valuing that value, the root of good character. And therefore, in China, where Confucius did what Confucius did, the government is supportive because it's atheistic. It's values without God and without soul. So there. And it's helpful to not just make people docile, help make people virtuous. But virtue doesn't hold, obviously, if it's not grounded in something that's eternal. That's sat. And to have sat, they have to have that which is sat. If the soul is eternal, and the supreme eternal. So that these values exist outside of Bhagavad Gita is not a surprise, or not outside of a conception of the supreme being. It's a value because it's value. It's universal, it's a value. But it doesn't have substance. It doesn't have sustainable existence. It just doesn't work that way. So here's a Bhagavad Gita being offered to us, the light of the Bhagavad. Humility gives acceptance. This is the slide. Get your cameras ready. You in the front row that like to take your cameras for nice things. Acceptance gives courage. If you like, I can send you the slide. I think that's what I'll do. You don't have to take a picture. I'll send you the slide. Don't take a picture. I'll send you the slide. Humility gives acceptance. Acceptance gives courage. Courage gives openness. Openness gives access to higher teachings. I'll send you the slide. Amrita Kelly, you remind me, yes? Okay. I don't think I'll forget because I said it 5 times. Openness gives access to higher teachings. To get openness, courage gives openness. How do you get courage? Acceptance gives courage. Supposing you don't have acceptance, humility gives acceptance. That's the starting point. Okay, so here's an application exercise. Now, depending upon the circumstance, and this isn't one of them, it's nice to have role play because role play helps people integrate and it's fun and it's funny and you learn from the role play. Right, Amara? Yes. So, but I didn't plan it for this gathering. So instead of a role play, it's going to be just to contemplate. And we can maybe discuss this a little bit. We'll do it that way. 3 different responses to praise from some service well done. So praise that's deserving because some service was done that was very nice. And then there are different ways to respond. 1, no. Denial, rejection of praise. That's one response. Another is you become inflated upon hearing you did nice service. And now I feel satisfied at being recognized and appreciated. Sounds like ignorance and passion. And here's deflecting deserved praise by directing that praise to Krishna and Guru for their mercy, quote, to engage an unqualified person such as me in any service, then providing the ability to do something for them. I don't know if this really lends itself to discussion groups. Who has an opinion about this? Should we do it? It seems that people like that, and it helps. Does it work? Yes. I'm getting 1 nod. I'm getting 2 nods. I got 3 nods, so we're going to go for it. So those of you that were with us for these little group discussions, proximate to you, and if really you want to go on the other side of the room, you can do that too, but somebody near you, 2 people, 3 people, even 4 people, but have a little discussion, somebody near you, and discuss these 3 things. These are responses, different responses to praise for some service that you have done that was well done. Clear? On your mark? Get set? Go. Include him. One more minute. Fifteen seconds. Okay. Well, it took a while for you all to get warmed up, but you got really warmed up. So good news is we're going to do part 2. So don't go too far away from your little group. Some of you seem to be not participating for some reason. So try to find somebody you can engage in discussion with. This gentleman back here. Yes, come on in. Okay. So here's another one. Okay. There's some feedback that's given to a leader regarding some service needing improvement. Okay, everyone's wide alert for this one right now. A leader lacking humility becomes agitated receiving feedback from a subordinate who is advised by a neutral person who they consulted to directly speak their heart. In this disturbed condition, the leader becomes insulting, accusing the underling of insubordination without acknowledging or addressing their own shortcomings. Yay for the underdog. And B, a leader who is humble, receives respectful feedback. There's the other kind of feedback, by the way. Responds to constructive evaluation in a manner that is equally respectful, apologetic, asking for forgiveness, and commits to correct their error. Now remember the context of this. This was, discussing how this came about, how someone who is a leader, in this case it was, the chairman of the GBC, but a leader of anything or any group of people or family or whatever it is, and somebody in the leadership role is going to get not do things perfectly unless they're a perfect person. Most of us aren't. So then feedback is due, but feedback should be given respectfully, because if it's not given respectfully, then it's a breach of etiquette and it just leads to a mess. So respectfully given, respectfully received. So with humility, of course, humility, it's really nice if there's humility on both sides. We guess giving feedback can also be done humbly and also can be done the opposite. Got to tell the truth, man. I'll just talk it straight. Here comes some knives. I'm just talking straight. I've never heard that phrase, but I get the picture. Okay, so here's your breakout session exercise. On your mark and set. Go. 1 minute. Portable microphone. Okay. We have some distance to go, right, to get to where we want to go. Spiritual culture. So this is in sequence: Samadarshana, Ahimsa, Amanitva, humility. Who would like to have some discussion on our topic, Gita values? Any one of these first three, or whatever you'd like to discuss. Yes.
So I was thinking that
We have a little portable microphone. You were thinking.
Questions, Guru Maharaj. So I was thinking when you just said this last statement that this is why this is coming as at a third place. I think I mean, as per my understanding, I'm realizing that humility is the first thing to even bring samadarshina or ahimsa.
So you can make your own list. It's okay.
I just
You
want
can
to
put it in number
understand.
1 spot. You want to know why these people put it in the 1 spot when it really shouldn't be the 3rd spot.
No, I just want to understand that
What's the
if I'm
logic?
missing something, like if my understanding is not right.
Your understanding is right. You're always right. But, you know, amanidvam, adamvidvam, it's the first in the list. Without humility. So it's not necessarily a chronological sequence. 1, 2, 3. It's not necessarily chronological sequence. There's, overlap. And I don't know the thought process exactly. I can surmise what it might have been, but I don't know what the thought process is exactly. If you want an exact answer, you can write to Braja Bihari. He may be able to tell you. It came from the discussion, and that's how they wrote it down, and then they wrote the paragraphs. And
Yes, sure. So I had just one more question. Maharaj.
yes,
So this iceberg example in this, like this, the deepest tip that was like in the deepest level that was called as assumptions. So I just needed a little bit more understanding on
Of
this. This term that is being used.
which one?
Assumptions. The iceberg example.
Oh.
So the deepest tip.
That which doesn't change. Values can change. Behaviors can change. And some things don't change. Unchanging realities.
So is it like at the soul level?
It's at the Sat level. Let's just say Prakriti. Prakriti exists. Material nature exists. Now there's beyond the 3 modes of material nature, but so it's just the tattvas, fundamental realities that just exist.
So is it not like person to person or
No, it's not person to person. That's there may be different persons, but there's certain things about those different persons that
They
are
are just the-
unchanging realities.
they are just the facts or they are just
You're asking the same question in a different way, and I'm giving you the same answer.
yes, Maharaj, because I mean I just assumed something. That's
I don't know how I can unconfuse you.
no, Maharaj, this is
It's
clear.
unchanging realities.
Yeah. Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much. Yeah.
In material, let's say gravity. Of course, Vedic picture has a different explanation of gravity, but objects fall.
Yes.
Light shines.
So somehow I understood this iceberg example to be like different for different persons. They have some behaviors, then they have some stated values, and they have some core beliefs.
Yes.
Each individual. That's how I was trying to.
Let me step back. Supposing somebody, this iceberg principle, the persons that are looking at unchanging realities, they may not be devotees, so there's not going to be spirit soul is who we really are. That's not going to be their bottom of the iceberg. But for those, for everybody, there's some unchanging realities.
Right.
We're going to die. I inserted, for us at the very beginning, for in Bhagavad Gita, an unchanging reality is we're spirit soul.
Right. Yeah. Yes, Maharaj. I'll try to understand it through that perspective now.
Okay, you can look at the model, the iceberg model, from a non-devotee perspective, a non-Bhagavad Gita perspective. Within culture, there's some unchanging realities.
Yeah. Yes.
No, in the mature world, that everything is changing.
Yeah.
You know what's
Yeah.
where there's a mountain today, there may not have been a mountain some time ago.
Yeah.
What today is the border between this country, that country may have been something else some time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I had a reflection on the previous exercise that we did.
Okay, here we come. Here comes the little microphone. It's a cute little microphone. I think we're better off getting a replacement for something that's broken. Go ahead.
You had mentioned we had the options for the 3 ways to respond to praise, and it was such a nice exercise because in my own small experience, I've observed, well, if someone comes and appreciates you, and if I just ignore it, then they feel empty. They feel like, I was offering you appreciation, and
You're
if I'm
lacking in culture, sir.
Yes. And even though the response is with humility, it's almost denying their
Existence.
appreciation. Yes.
Their existence.
Their existence, yes. And the third one, obviously the second one, if you say yes, yes, then they're like, oh, you're full of it. But the third one, responding with gratitude, is so nice because it's saying, yes, that was nice, but this was not me. This was the gifts of my teachers. It was the gift of the Lord that was helping me doing this.
Yeah. I because I've been spending so much time on this pastime with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu testing Sanatana Goswami, and what he does with Sanatana Goswami just completely amazes Haridas Thakur. And he says to the Supreme Lord, we can't understand you. You have to tell us. Otherwise, we can't understand your intentions. And then he leaves and says to Sanatana Goswami, you're the most fortunate person. Because whatever the Lord wants, it's going to happen because he's going to make it happen because he wants it. And he can make anyone do something he wants someone to do. But he selected you to act through, to do something he wants. And then Sanatana Goswami turns it around. The praise is going to Sanatana Goswami. He said, actually, it's you who's the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy. He came into this world to deliver the glories of the holy name, and through you, both Achar and Prachar, you're the perfect example. You're the spiritual master of the whole universe. You're the most fortunate person. So that's another way of, it's deflecting, interfering to another great person. But Haridas was saying, whatever the Lord wants, it's going to happen because he wants it to happen. And he wants it to be through you. So it's going to happen. So that the glory is not you, the glory is the Supreme Lord, but he selected you as the instrument. So therefore you're the most fortunate. So, different ways. These are two totally transcendental personalities. Not just playing a game of you're better than I am, or no, you're better than I am. It's just their transcendental way of receiving some praise and not assimilating it, but deflecting it. Transferring that praise to another. Something else. Anyone? He wants you to say something. Okay. She's camera shy. Maybe later. Anyone? Sure. You have a loud voice. I don't know if you need a microphone. But that's people remote, so they won't be able to hear you.
Louder because the fundraising needs.
Yeah.
So before I started fundraising activities, I used to learn how difficult it is to like book distribution, and book distribution brings you biggest humility. You go door to door and you have rejections, and then so yeah, I learned. I did a little bit, but the fundraising.
It's even
is
more
the
humbling.
The extreme of.
Give me the book distribution, please.
Even the congregation members and devotees also don't see in my eyes. Like now, this time he will ask that, and he will remind me. So I said, no, I'm just coming to wish you happy birthday. And many times it's genuinely I want to wish, but they really want to check. And then now on a serious note, it is sometimes very easy to
Be an
get
instrument, Prabhu. Be an instrument.
easy
Make
to
Krishna empower you.
easy to get puffed up when people think, oh, I do so much of, I go and get this 100,000 or 200,000. It's genuinely like what Maharaj in your one of the number 3 was, that it's actually Krishna makes it. It's like some of these people I have never expected, but somebody calls me, say, hey, come, I will take you there, and he will give you, and they call, I give you. I never met that person. And the person gives $100,000. There are some people who are supposed to give, who I have been working for like 5 years, and just
They're
behind
elusive.
them. Yeah, it's not given. So the humility, I mean, is one of the best way. If somebody is still yet to learn, join me.
Okay, it's an advertisement. You want to develop this nice amanitva quality? Join the fundraising team. Guaranteed, or your money back. Anything else? Okay. Last chance. Mataji, he wanted you to say something. Here we go. She's going to agree. Okay.
About gratitude, where we were deflecting the praise to someone else.
Yes.
Showing gratitude.
Yes.
And to the Lord, to everyone around you.
Yes.
And I was just telling Gopal Das ji, I do this with my children every morning. First thing in the morning, we do a gratitude exercise.
Really?
And okay, the moment they call me, what are you gratitude? What are you thankful for today? And it's on the same lines.
First thing in the morning, they got to answer that question?
They have to answer that question, yes. They don't get to talk to me if they don't answer that question.
Really?
Yes.
I like my toothpaste. Is that simple? Okay. Does it work?
It does. It does.
It starts to grow. It's not just mechanical and social. It becomes...
It gets them thinking. And I think the end goal of this gratitude exercise is peace of mind, thankfulness, contentment, and satisfaction.
Should we have to sign up and be your child? You can sign up and be part of his fundraising team.
Yes.
Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.